Kate,
Yes, Emily.
you have been a couple and family therapist for a very long time. And I think what is really interesting to hear is when you talk about the key questions. Obviously, people come to therapy and get help, which is brilliant. Which I just love the fact that your world exists and that people can get support around their relationship. I think that is absolutely fabulous. And there isn't enough of that. And there's definitely often a stigma around people getting help for their relationship, which is ridiculous because we're at a stage where over half of all marriages end in divorce, and
we get help for everything else.
Well, yeah. So why should we not get help for relationships? And we won't even get started on separated parents and the lack of support to stop them breaking down in the first place, or to help them have a relationship breakdown that's really good for them and for the children. Anyway, I'm dead interested in. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the therapy room in that context, because obviously mine is family mediation, so they typically really hate each other at that stage, or not. But anyway, it's different context. What are the things, the questions that you say to couples, you need to know this about your partner?
Okay.
The ones that really get the
not
most
so much. I think it's
impact.
Okay, so when people come into couple therapy, generally it's been one of their ideas. It's not they've both said, yeah, okay, we're going to do it, but somebody had the idea in the first place. So there's always a sort of a leader and a follower, for
an
want
instigator.
of a better, a sort of, this is what we're doing, and we could get into why the other person has said, okay, let's go, but that's another thing. So I think it's quite good to think in terms of what generally is happening when people have made that decision. And, it feels brave, because it is brave. You don't know that person, that you don't know what they're going to ask you. And you're feeling vulnerable, you're feeling furious, you're feeling lots of things. And now you're talking to a stranger. It's weird. But, and something that I talk about when I'm talking to practitioners is it's important to remember that most of us back ourselves. Most of us think, secretly, I'm pretty amazing. Just gonna say, most of us think that if the other person was a bit more like them, that we'd have less problems. So if you imagine, this is how I imagine what's going on when people come in, that if the person could say this, and they obviously don't say this, but if they could, they would say, look, listen, okay, I'm a really good person because I've agreed to come here today. And basically, there's a shit ton of stuff wrong with them. And but I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty sorted.
And you're about to find out.
So, yeah. So I'm pretty cool because I've agreed to come along today, and I'm going to help you to help them. Because if you and I together, if you and I sort them out, then my relationship won't have a problem. So that's sort of secretly often what is going on in both people. So they're both sat there opposite you, and if one of them could go, they're the problem, I'm going to help you sort them out, that's what they do. And that's also what the other person's doing. So both of them, really, if they could, would say to you, look, while they've gone to the toilet, just to let you know, they've got all the baggage and the problems and the issues. I'm pretty sorted. And to be honest, I deal with stress much better than they do. I'm the sorted one. So should we work on making them a bit more like me? And then we won't need to come see you anymore because it'll all be sorted.
So what do you say?
We break it down, because it is obviously that isn't the case. It is, even when a couple have come because there's infidelity or there's been an event.
Yeah.
Even when you start breaking that down, it's always more complex than they're the problem and I'm not. And I suppose it is about that opportunity to dig around and really challenge that. What are you actually afraid of?
Ooh,
that
I like that.
that is, if you can't think, if you're talking to someone about their relationship, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere and they're just telling you stuff, he did this and then she did that, and stories, facts, it's not actually that helpful. It's not getting you to what is really going on here. Asking the sort of a real go-to is, what are you actually afraid of? Because if you think about someone asking you that question, okay, you could say spiders and then pretend you need a wee and then never come back to the conversation. But if you have been brave enough to go, I'm in this conversation, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to talk to you. If we all thought about, actually, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of them doing? What I'm afraid of them thinking? What am I afraid of sharing? Because often there's lots of unsaid stuff between people, isn't there? You think about sibling relationships. I was watching Race Across the World, and there's a really interesting sibling relationship on there between two girls, and it felt like a real cliffhanger kept going through each episode of what is it that's gone on between them that has created this distance? What are they afraid of saying to each other? I literally spent the whole time going,
get on with it.
Come on then, tell her what it is.
What was it?
Well, it sort of didn't really.
Oh,
I'm not sure that they really said it, but you could see that it was like, I really want to say this to you, but I'm really shit scared of what you're going to do with.
So it's the reaction
telling
that
you
scared
that
of.
I can't control your reaction, and I can't know what it's going to be. I think I know, and that's often the really sad thing, that when people do reach out for help. And I think sometimes when we're talking about, separated parents and people that have gone their separate ways, so much has been assumed. And often it's really sad because they think the other person thinks that you're a bad parent, the other person thinks you're selfish, the other person thinks you're... And actually, when it comes to it, if they were brave enough to ask, they'd probably find that isn't that person's perspective. But we're afraid of what we don't know, aren't we? I don't know
the unknown,
what you're going to say to me. So I'm just going to live here in what I know is a bit of a dysfunctional relationship, and what I know is I could be happier, and probably I know you could be happier, but I don't know what it takes to get there. So I'm just going to stay here with this sense of I'm not satisfied, but I'm way more scared of change than I am of the fact that I don't feel satisfied.
Do you think people ever get over being cheated on?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes, I do. Yes,
do you think
I do.
Some people aren't capable of getting over it?
Yeah, I think you've got to want to. In the same way that going to couple therapy because the other person's told you you've got to go. Sometimes it works because the other person realizes, shit, this feels good. Like often the bloke, if it's a heterosexual relationship, the bloke's like, oh, actually talking is good. It feels cathartic, and you can't shut them up. But I think you have to want your relationship to be different. So you have to acknowledge that this isn't how I want it to be, and I want it to be different. So I'm willing to put the work in. I think you have to want to understand why that person did what they did.
Why do you think people cheat?
Oh my God, that's a massive question.
Yeah.
That is a massive question.
There's so many different...
There's so many answers to that.
There is. But I think it's so destructive, isn't it, to the relationship?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, and you hear people say, for us, it was sort of a moment in our lives where we weren't communicating. We weren't talking about what we were scared of, or we weren't.
And I think it spawns growth often.
Yeah, it can, can't it?
Yeah, it can. It absolutely can. And
that is interesting for people to hear that you've just said it can make you stronger and it can spawn growth.
And that is, I think.
But it can't happen again.
Well, I mean, I think, but that's the thing about relationships. It's a personal set of rules, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You know, like when we talk about, we were talking about that, you know, I think it's called Open House. I've only watched a little bit of it, but you know, that is a consensual, I mean, don't get me started, because I think there's lots about that I think often one person is feeling quite manipulated in that situation. But I think, according to whose rules do you operate your relationship? And I think that's what we don't always robustly discuss. What are our rules? What are your boundaries? And that is a really good question, and one that we would often ask in couples therapy. Well, what is your boundary? Like, you know, what is over the line for you might not be over the line for me. What is, like, we've talked before about things like shouting, for example, or sort of the way that you deal with being frustrated with each other. You know, the way that would happen in my relationship might be very different to how how it happens in yours.
It is.
Neither's right, or
but
you know, it's just because your flavour.
We kind of, either intentionally or not intentionally, we've negotiated those rules.
Yeah.
And it's either spoken or unspoken, but it's the way that the relationship has developed over time, and it's what is normal, but not what's just normal, but what's acceptable. And it is about having your own, it's your code of conduct as a couple, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is your own code of conduct, what's okay for me and what's not okay.
And I think it's being brave enough to not listen to what everyone else, all your friends on your WhatsApp group are telling you. I wouldn't be having that.
Comparison is what?
Oh, yeah.
What do you always say about comparison?
The thief of joy.
It is.
Comparison is the thief of joy. If I had to, I don't know what podcast it is where they ask you, what's your mantra? That is my mantra, because I think it is the reason that lots of younger people's relationships go to shit, is because they're listening to all their friends go, oh no, you shouldn't be putting up with that, and that's not acceptable. Well, you know, it's fine to listen to other people's opinions. Of course, that's important. But what is acceptable for you? What works for you? You know, it's like when people go, you know, how many times a week do you have sex? I was like, why is that relevant? You know, it's personally. Yeah. It's how it's relevant to you, isn't it? Like, it's not actually, why do you need to know that? So that you can compare yourself, and then what you're going to do with that comparison.
Isn't it because often, let's talk about sex actually. This is an interesting one.
I really, really had to try hard not to sing the little song then.
Do it.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Anyway.
So I just had to, just a little.
So if people are happy with the amount of sex that they have, and some people are, they both have to be happy with that level of you're having it loads or you're not having it loads. And again, it's about your own set of rules that you've made together as a couple, and what makes you feel good and what you're happy with. And actually, have we openly talked about this? Because I know that there are loads of couples, and you know, I've got friends and just people that you talk to, and they say, oh, you know, I want it more than they do, or they want it more than I do. And I do feel like those are the things that you have to talk about as a couple. You have got to talk about it.
Do you know what? I would say it's there are couple therapists who don't like talking about it. So if your professional is thinking, don't bring up sex, because it's not my comfort zone, then that, you know, that says it all, doesn't it? That if we feel uncomfortable about it, and I get it, and I think we feel uncomfortable about it because we think, what does it say about us? You know, are we a lesser couple if I'm sitting with all my girlfriends and they're all going, you know, 3 times a week, and I'm thinking, oh, that's not me. Comparison, see, is the thief of joy, because maybe I'm having absolute scream the house down amazing sex once a month. So maybe I would argue that is much better than a bit of a crap bunk up 3 times a week.
Well, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about maintenance sex.
Yeah.
And if you're having maintenance sex that isn't swinging from the chandeliers, you know, amazing.
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
do it on every furniture item around the house, and you're doing that once a month, then that's very different to the maintenance sex that you're having 2 or 3 times a week. So actually it's about quality, not quantity, I guess.
Well, and it's about you.
Yeah.
Like, what does it for you? What? And I think
Some
that
people
is
like maintenance
it's not
sex.
Even. It's not
and
even.
not swinging from chandeliers sex.
And it's not even. It's even bigger than that, isn't it? Sex is one chapter of your relationship.
It is. Yeah.
And actually, what makes you feel close and bonded? Yes, sex plays a role in that, but actually, it's as well about how do I feel like you know how to meet my needs? That is, first of all, sexy, proper sexy, if you know that person, they've predicted that you're going to do X, Y, and Z. So therefore, they are going to run you a bath when you get home because they know you've had to do public speaking today and it's your worst nightmare. So they've bought you your favourite chocolate bar and they've run you a bath. And that is sexy. That is like, I feel loved by you.
That is actually part of the foreplay then, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's part of the bonding. It's part of the, I care about you. I respect you. I want you to feel loved by me. I'm going to do these things that instigate you to have those particular thoughts and feelings.
What if you're just happy with the chocolate bar and the bath?
Well, if they're also happy with that, that's fine, isn't it? That's fine.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. Don't touch me. It's hot. I'm sweaty.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep now. I think those you asked ages ago, what are the things that we would ask in these sort of therapeutic conversations? And really, it's not that complicated. Most of the time it is helping people to understand what is it that you're afraid of. And like, I think the reason that we're not good at talking about sex is because that requires a vulnerability. Mm. That requires us to say, I like this and I don't like that. What happens if we say something that the other person goes, oh my God, no, I'm not doing that. Then we feel shame. Yeah, we feel shame and we think, oh shit, I'm not going to bring anything like that up again. So then that is actually less of a bond rather than paying into our bond. So I think that knowing what the other person needs, we've talked about this before, where you're messaging maybe your partner through the day and you're getting the gist that they're having a bad day and that meeting didn't go the way they were hoping. So when they come back, to feel valuable and useful, and because we want to cheer that person up, we go, right, tell me then, what did she say in the email that upset you? You then say, well, blah, blah, blah. And you go, right, I tell you what you need to do. Come on, we're going to do it together. We're going to write a reply to that email.
But that is
teamwork. Well-intentioned, and it's well-intentioned, but I didn't ask you to do that.
Yeah.
Actually, what I want you to do is go, babes, I'm going to give you a back rub. I'm going to have beans on toast for tea. You can have extra grated cheese, and I'm going to give you a back rub. Amen, because I'm not asking you to solve... I'm not asking you to solve the problem. I just want to tell you about it. But actually what I want from you is beans on toast and a back rub. But you've gone into, I'm going to help you and I'm going to fix it.
Don't you think some people just naturally go into fix it mode, though?
Well, yes, because that suits
it's
them.
in their nature as well. And they think that the other person, you see this all the time, that they think that their partner did the wrong thing, or, well, I wouldn't have done it like that. So that's why they go into fix it mode, because I would have done it better than you and I would have done it differently.
Then we're back to what I was saying at the beginning, where they sit down and go, listen, you and I both know I'm smashing.
Yeah.
I'm not the problem here, it's them. They've got loads of baggage. So let's make them more like me, and then, hey presto, we don't have a problem. And that's that. It always often circles back to that if you were more like me, it would be easier for me. And I know we talk about perspectives a lot. Couples that do well have learnt to meet each other's needs, to not just go into fix it mode, to understand what the other person needs, be willing to give it to them, even if it even if there's nothing in it for them, you know, I'm willing to do that for you because I respect you and love you, and we're a team. But also that willing to be open to this. We might have to sit with that this is uncomfortable for a while. We might have to sit with our relationship is going to find this difficult, and like I'm okay with that. I'm willing to sort of go through the pain barrier, if you like. You know, when we talk about stages of relationship and how we build it, you know, that power struggle stage of, well, I want to do this, well, I want to do that. Well, and I think young people,
oh God,
you know, it's about you, isn't it? You know, it's hard for you to see it from the other person's perspective. And so you try and recruit them over to your perspective rather than go, I'm curious, tell me, why do you think that?